All right, everybody, welcome to JCLive, your weekly source for JCL news and fun. I'm Kurt Ristroff, your host and publications chair for the National Junior Classical League, an organization of middle and high school students in classics courses. With me today is NJCL editor Irene Calderon. Irene, how's it going?
It's going great.
Good, glad to hear it. Excited to have you on the show. We've got a good show planned for y'all today. As you may have seen from the title, today will be a read-through. A dramatic read-through, perhaps, in some places. A serious read-through, perhaps, in other places. But a read-through, nonetheless, of the Torch US, the official quarterly magazine of the National Junior Classical League. A publication that is edited, compiled, and put together entirely by NJCL editor Irene Calderon, who has joined us for this call. So, Irene, this is your third torch that you've worked on, right?
Yes. I helped Elizabeth with the fall torch, and then I did the winter torch, and then now it's this one.
Yes, and it just so happens that, the torches are released on September 1st, December 1st, March 1st, and June 1st. And you may have noticed that today is March 1st. And we planned that, actually. We reorganized the Julian calendar just so that JCLive would fall on a day that the Torch US comes out. And so the Torch came out today. It is a digital publication hosted on the website JOOMAG, JOOMAG. There is a link to this issue of the Torch in the description in case y'all want to follow along. But the point of today's stream is that we're going to be doing basically an audiobook version of the Torch. So Irene and I figured we would alternate back and forth reading articles. And then Irene can offer commentary. Irene or I can offer commentary. She put together this issue. I only helped copy edit it. So all of the formatting you see, all of the colors, all of the shapes, all of the everything was Irene's doing. And it's a beautiful issue of the Torch. Very, very excited to be going through it with you.
Thank you.
So let's start off here on the cover. Can you tell us a little about the cover?
Yeah, so basically I tried to make the cover fit overall with the theme I have for this issue's torch, which is basically fresh starts, new beginnings, positivity, and hope. And also it's spring, so here we have JCLers posing with their plants arranged in a sort of mosaic.
I love it. All right, let us dive right in. Of course, if at any point anyone in the chat has any questions for Irene or for myself, you can put those in the chat. Mr. Webb says he's looking forward to the new torch. So am I. So let's get started. Okay. We don't have to read the table of contents or the photo credits or the Torch US policy. One thing I like about the JOOMAG site is that you can do hyperlinks. So those of you who may not have noticed before, but each of these table of contents entries links to the specific page, and all of these email addresses are hyperlinks also. So that's fun. So why don't you take it away with the editor's note?
Yeah, sure. Basically, the editor's note, if you don't know, is basically a place where I sort of introduce the issue, introduce the themes, and just put my overall thoughts down before, the issue. So, Salvete Amici. Spring is a time for renewal and regrowth. There's a reason why spring cleanings take place in the springtime. And though we are still in the midst of a pandemic and things aren't quite 100% back to the way they used to be, we've managed to find a new normal as we continue to adapt to the changes that the pandemic has brought. We've even found a new source of hope in the COVID-19 vaccine as it continues to be developed and distributed. As the world is on its way to healing from the hardships that 2020 has wrought, I thought it fitting to make the theme for this issue of the Torch US as fresh starts and new beginnings. On the cover, we have JCLers posing with their plants, which are classic symbols of enduring life. And the cover story features the ancient Romans and Greeks and how they maintained their gardens. Nothing is a better reminder of new hope than seeing the smiling faces of children, hence in the voices, "See how the officers look like us babies, how cute." Some favorites from the winter issue of the Torch US have returned, like the dedication to the Latin teachers, ancient Roman recipes, this time based off the Spring Festival of Floralia, a modern myth with art, and more. Thank you so much to everyone who submitted articles, art, and pictures for this issue. If you have any questions, send them my way at editor@njcl.org. Please enjoy the spring issue of the Torch US. Ab emo pectore, Irene Calderon.
Terrific. And where did this art come from? Who is Maddie Ray?
She was actually one of the winners of last year's previous convention. She won with her art, and then I'm actually following her on Instagram. So that's how I found her, and then I contacted her and asked her to do some art for this issue, and she actually did the art for the winter issue as well. So yeah, shout out to Maddie and her amazing art.
That's terrific. Thanks, Maddie, and thanks, Irene, for organizing that. All right. So for a couple of years now, it's been very popular among the editors to put baby photos of the officers into one of these issues. And so this is that. All right, we can read the officer voices. I'll start off. Daniel Newgarden says, Salvete omnes. I hope everyone is having a happy, safe, and healthy 2021 so far. As spring approaches, I want to mention a Roman festival that holds a special place in my heart, the Feriae Sementivae. As many of you know, I'm big on nature, farming, planting, and harvesting, so it should come as no surprise that I've chosen to bring up a festival dedicated to planting the year's crops. This festival is, of course, related to the theme of this year, Sibi quisque rurimetit, or in English, each harvests one's own farm. With this, I would exhort all JCLers to enjoy the planting of seeds for the year. Set yourselves up for success by acknowledging what you can control and planting seeds that will bear fruits of success for you this year. Yours as always, Daniel Newgarden, 2020 to 2021 NJCL President. Thanks, Daniel.
Yes, and then this is Reyes. And here's what he has to say. Salvete amici. I hope everyone is enjoying the new year, also technically the new decade. Since the beginning of our terms, the National Board and I have been working hard to bring you all an amazing year, despite having to deal with social distancing. I have been working with Mr. Ristroff and my fellow officers every week to bring new episodes of JCLive to the JCL community. Additionally, Lindy and I have been hard at work on creating a National Classics Week that will be inclusive and allow JCLers to participate, regardless of their state's social distancing guidelines. I would love to give details about the theme and activities this year, but unfortunately you all will have to wait until the packet is published. I have also been working on my state motto initiative and helping chapters with everything regarding publicity and membership. I can't wait to see everyone having fun during National Classics Week, and I hope to see everyone at our virtual NJCL convention. E. Corday Reyes Campos, 2020 to 2021 NJCL First Vice President.
Yeah, a couple of things here. It turns out this is 2021 is widely regarded as the start of the new decade, which I didn't realize. I would have thought that 2020 was the start of the new decade, but when I was copy editing this issue, I actually looked it up. And because there is no year zero, the first decade was 1 AD, and so therefore the next decade started with 11 AD, and so the decades start on the ones. Interesting stuff. Mr. Dave Jackson in the chat asks, where can I find one of those sweet JCL banners? I'm assuming he's talking about the one behind me here. You'd have to talk to Mr. Little at the NJCL office. As far as I know, this is the only one there is. This is the one that's on stage at Nationals every year. And the good folks at the Hamilton office were kind enough to lend it to me as a backdrop for JCLive, but at some point I'll have to give it back. Although, if you're interested, SCL does sell SCL shower curtains with the big SCL logo on it. So you can head on over to their Redbubble store, I think is what it's called, and check that out. All right, Lindy says, Salvete omnes, I can't believe it is already 2021. My time as an NJCL officer has flown by so far. These past few months, I've been working hard to coordinate all the details related to spirit and service for this year's virtual NJCL convention. Additionally, Rais and I are diligently planning National Classics Week. We want to ensure that no matter how your club or state is operating this year, you will be able to take part in NCW. I am continuing to run the Club of the Month contest as well. If you want to enter, use this link. And you'll notice it's a link. You can check out all the past winners on the NJCL Instagram page. I can't wait to review all of the entries to come. And of course, if you ever have any questions about spirit and service, email me at vp2@njcl.org. Sending you all much JC love, Lindy Raining, NJCL Second Vice President.
Yeah, I just thought I should mention before we continue with the voices, like the plants on the background of the baby pictures, they're actually pictures taken by Layla Abelfathi on her, I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, so if I butchered that, sorry. But I found them on her Instagram page, so shout out to Layla and thank you for lending the pictures to me.
Terrific. And of course, if any of you have, we're not getting super technical at this point into the layout of these spreads and things like that, but we always can. If anyone is interested in the mechanics of putting together the torch as we go through it, ask away and we will elucidate you.
Okay, Nolan, he is our Coco. So howdy, Miki. Over the past few months, I have enjoyed getting to run the website contest and talk with all the wonderful webmasters who have submitted. Even amid this pandemic, everyone has been doing such an amazing job in putting together successful entries. I want to commend everyone for their hard work. If you have a website but have not yet submitted, it's not too late. Go to bit.ly/NJCL web contest, fill out the form, and you're all set. The deadline for submissions is April 1st, so go enter. If you want to meet other secretaries or webmasters, you can go to bit.ly/JCL Slack and join the JCL Slack server. I'm looking forward to getting to talk about this year's NJCL convention at Spring Planning Meeting in April. I get to do my favorite part of being the NJCL Coco, taking minutes at meetings. Stay safe, everyone. Nolan Heinrich, 2020 to 2021 NJCL Communications Coordinator.
I like Nolan's and Daniel's hats in these pictures. They both have good hats.
Yeah. Stunning.
Okay, Annie says, as parliamentarian, I've been finalizing amendments to our Constitution and bylaws, creating the annual election publication, The Campaign Corner, answering candidates' meaningful questions, and working on finishing my individual projects. It wasn't until recently that we knew that the convention this year would be fully virtual. After finding this out, I have created posts for the national election process and began planning virtual election events that I hope will be as stimulating as those in a physical convention. I've also worked with Mr. Compton to create 2 reference guides for the lengthy amendments to the organization's national governing documents that will be presented later this year. I'm so excited and grateful to be able to lead this year's election and amendment process, and as always, if anyone reading this is interested in running, please feel free to reach out to me at parliamentarian@njcl.org. In other news, I've decided to postpone the youth parliamentarian coursework until the summer. I also want to remind everyone that coming up is the inaugural Constitution contest. The guidelines will be up by late February for this year's virtual convention. Gratias vobis ago, any class, 2020 to 2021 in JCL Parliamentarian.
Yeah. And here's Vivian. She's our historian. I've been working hard and I've been recently opened the Video of the Month contest up for submissions. Submit to VOTM here, and where there's the word here, there's a link that you can click. In the past few months, I've continued to work on both the Photo of the Month and Video of the Month contests. All the winners have been posted on the Historian's Facebook page, and I can't wait to see your submissions in the future. I plan to implement themes for the Video of the Month contest that will be a loose guideline for future submissions. You can choose to ignore it, but I hope these themes will provide you with the prompt to make your videos. I am so sad that convention will be virtual again, but all the officers and I have been working hard to make sure that this year's experience will be great. I can't wait to see you all virtually for convention in a few months. And of course, be excited for the National Scrapbook, both in traditional and video forms. Ex Onimo Vivian Wu, 2020 to 2021 NJCL Historian.
What is it that you're wearing in this picture, Irene?
Oh, that's a dog costume.
Is it for Halloween? There's a pumpkin in the background?
Yeah,
Terrific.
yeah, I think so. I think like if you pressed the ear, I remember it had like a song that it sang. I forgot how it goes. I just remembered that it was like a singing costume.
Wow. And you wrote Salvete Amici. It's nice to write to you all again. Oddly enough, the publication of The Winter Torch doesn't feel too long ago, but then again, time really does fly when you're having fun. I have some fun things planned for the remainder of my term. Firstly, be on the lookout for a special edition of The Torch made just for middle schoolers. It will still have all the fun and quality content that the main torches have, but it will focus more on aspects of JCL membership so that middle schoolers can know what to look forward to as future members. Secondly, if you're a state or local editor, or if you're interested in learning more about how to navigate publication software like ShoeMag, then you can join me on one of the Zoom calls coming up. Information about both of these projects will be released through at National Junior Classical League. Check out the JCL Bookshelf. Your local and state editors have been working hard to turn out their publications, so show your support. There are past publications on there as well, and I've also been updating the website to include recent publications. So, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Abimo Pectore, Irene Calderon, 2020 to 2021 NJCL editor.
I like your Latin pronunciations.
Oh, thanks. It's maybe pretentious. I don't know. Are you supposed to roll your R's? I was taught yes. I don't know.
Oh.
Those in the chat, do you roll your R's? Do you not? Am I rolling my R's too much? Too little? Just right? I've been watching a lot of the Great British Baking Show recently, so I've been watching, Paul Hollywood and Mary Berry be very judgmental of these people baking, and so I feel like that has made me become more self-judgmental too, which may or may not be a good thing. Well, we'll talk more about cooking in a couple of pages. Do you want to get to this which mythological character question?
Yeah, so basically after a lot of the voices, I ask like a fun question to all of the officers so that you can get to know them a bit better. So since prom season is coming up in a few months, I think, which mythological character would your officers take to prom? So Daniel would take Achilles so long as Patroclus doesn't get jealous. Rais would take Niobe because she rocks. It's a quality pun. Lindy would take Orpheus so I can ask him to play some music. Nolan would take Bacchus because he would definitely know how to be the life of the party. Annie would take Hephaestus because he's underrated and I just know with those arm muscles he can dance like no other. Vivian would take Apollo because he's the dancer. And I would take Hermes because he's fast on his feet, clever, and he can fly. And what's not to like?
So apparently I'm getting, not in the chat, but I'm getting communications from some of our viewers that rolling your R's is pretentious. So I was taught wrong. So I'll have to say gratias and ab imo pectore instead of rolling the R's. But maybe now and again I'll keep it there.
I wish I knew how to roll my R's personally, though. It's like a cool sound effect.
Well, thanks. Now, this is one of my favorite features that Irene has brought to the Torch. These are just incredibly wholesome bits of content where students write thank you letters, basically, talking about how wonderful their teachers are. So I'm going to read this one by Jack Wilburn from Kentucky, talking about Miss Kelly Cush. Hurtling down Midwestern highways in a van that smelled like spicy pickles, Kelly Cush demonstrated her supreme conviction as she ferried 10 Latin students across the country on the way to Fargo, North Dakota. This is a conviction she demonstrated time and time again, with each slash on a Latin synopsis, each hour spent individually tutoring Greek, and each moment encouraging her students for the past 30 years. With such indomitable spirit comes an impeccable grader. Miss Cush is so good at grading, in fact, that she once handed back a Latin quiz in the same period it was taken. Of course, with her driven personality and harsh demeanor that is only heightened by the Kubrick stare over glasses. Miss Cush seems like the most stern lady born on the Chicago side of the Mississippi. That harshness is deceptive, though, because the moment she licked an orange NLE sheet to see if it tasted like pumpkin spice, we knew she was just as quirky as the rest of us. This paper taste test was for the sake of satisfying a student's quandary, proving that she is willing to go to any lengths necessary to answer all of her students' questions. Her passion is contagious, inspiring each of her students to become lifelong learners. In hindsight, everything Miss Cush did was for her students, including lambasting our poorly written essays and taking us on a field trip around our school to bless the water fountains on Fontalia. It takes drive to be a lady of such erudition, and she went to U Chicago, so you know she's smart. But it takes even more drive in conjunction with compassion to be an exceptional teacher.
That's beautiful.
Yes, thank you, Jack, for writing that. That was terrific.
What I want to know is whether the paper actually tasted like pumpkin spice or not.
It doesn't actually say, does it?
No. We'll never know. I really wanted to, though. Yeah.
I'm sure we have contacts in the NLE. We can figure this out.
Okay, this next teacher is actually my teacher, Mr. Dean. I've had him since the 7th grade, and I just thought this would be a good place to pay tribute to him and thank him for basically all that he's done for me. Yeah, Mr. Dean objectively has one of the coolest rooms in our school, with his walls lined with maps, a shadow box of Hector being dragged behind Achilles' chariot by his desk, mosaics of Icarus falling, and Helios' cows and other myths on proud display, and a quarter set aside for trophies from state convention wins. It speaks to his dedication and enthusiasm for the Latin language, to which he has devoted his life. Though he is excellent at teaching by the Ecce Romani or Wheelock's Latin books, he is really in his element when he can connect what is happening in the modern world with the classics, and these stories make up the highlight of the class. For instance, on Inauguration Day, we discussed the etymology of the word inauguration. From there, he took us on an intellectual odyssey. We touched on the different types of priests in ancient Rome. Then he described Rome's 7 hills so vividly that we could have been standing on them. Aside from showcasing his formidable storytelling chops, he does his utmost best to engage his students, doing whatever he can to make sure the information he teaches sticks. He gives up his summers to organize extra study sessions for us. He has songs for each of the declension endings and rhymes for each of the verb suffixes. One of his past students turned in a photo of a grotesque pink clay figure for a school project. Ever since then, Mr. Dean has used a photo to teach supines. We are Rothius horribile visu, the pink man horrible to see. Finally, Mr. Dean is also active with the NJCL and OJCL. He has always inspired us to join state and national conventions, and he encourages us to try as many events as possible, even if they're beyond our comfort zone. He has even taught a lot of the esteemed Latin teachers in our state. His passion for the classics is unquestionable, legendary in my school and in Ohio. He has inspired his students to find their own dedication and enthusiasm for the classics. Teachers like him keep the spirit of the classics alive. As he has always encouraged us, go Mr. Dean, go.
Beautiful. Does he say that a lot? Go, someone
Yeah,
go.
in his email. Like, I tell him something I did, and he always signs off like, go Irene, go. And it
Wonderful.
gives me a bunch of encouragement.
Mr. Larry Dean, yes, a name that you will certainly have heard if you've been to a number of NJCL conventions. A real legend, as Mr. Jackson said in the chat. Okay, so here we have photo of the month. You want to talk about this some?
Yeah, this is actually one of the contests that Vivian oversees. So, here are the winners for November and December and January. So the winner for November is Julia Park from North Gwyneth High School, Cards for Veterans. And the winner for December was G. Wilson of Wyoming High School, Ms. May's an Adopt-A-Book. And I actually know these people because they're from my state, so yay to them. Mm-hmm. And January's winner was Cynthia Ruin, Walton High School Bake Off, and that looks delicious. I like the fruit arrangement.
Yes.
So congrats to everyone who won.
Yes, absolutely. And I really like using the torch as a place to memorialize, remember these winners for things like photo of the month and video of the month. It's a great medium for that. So is the National Scrapbook, but I really like having it in the torch also. And so this kind of thing, if we're going to take a step back now, this sort of spread would be more difficult to do in the paper medium, because when you have I can see my mouse, right? Here's the dividing line between the two pages, and so the H in there would be this would be either two staples or three staples through the middle of this page. So while there wouldn't be an actual staple through the H, there would be probably a crease. And so the effect that you get from this green banner running horizontally across the entire spread, there would be a crease, and it would be hard to read the because it would be compressed. So this way you can really see the full effect of a two-page spread. And this is something that Irene and Elizabeth and Annika and Jade, in fact, all four editors who have worked with me, really have a terrific sense of what a two-page spread can really do. Like this photograph, for example, it is across the halfway mark, if you can see, because the halfway mark is in between these two horizontal lines. But it doesn't look out of place. It's terrific. It's good layout. It's a beautiful page. It's a beautiful spread. It's a beautiful use of the two-page spread on this digital medium. And that's me just geeking out for a couple of minutes about how well Irene does her blocking being laying things out on the page. It's really, really aesthetic, really appealing to the eye. Of course, the content is good. The fonts are a good choice. The font size is good. Everything's consistent. Everything's lined up. November and January lined up. All these things. But the blocking and everything else, beautiful. A beautiful two-page spread. I'm going to stop talking about this now, but terrific. Because on the next page, there's another one. So why don't you tell us about video of the month?
Yeah, so I think this is actually a new contest of Vivian's. This is something that she started this year, her term. So the winners for video of the month for November, it's Sadie Almgren of Menlo Atherton High School, made a recap video of virtual events and competitions of the California JCL in November. December's winner was Riona Duncan of Walter Payton College Preparatory High School, made the columella salad from the winter edition of the Torch US while narrating the process and giving her feedback about the recipe. And her twin Tegan Duncan helped with filming. January's winner was Sadie Almgren of Menlo Atherton High School, made a video of introduction for the California Junior Classical League officer. And the honorable mention was Michelle La of the Middle School, made a skit with other NVJCLers, Alice Sun, Andrew Barth, Yasmin Goravanchi, Lawrence Zhang, and Kira Romberg about Julius Caesar on the game Among Us. And Sadie Almgren of Menlo Atherton High School made a recap video of monthly contest winners in the California JCL in December.
And if you click on these videos, they play, which is wonderful. I love this so much. I'm not going to play any of them for you, but y'all can go check that out. And that's one of the other great benefits of being on a virtual platform for this. All right, moving on.
Also, all of the borders, I'm not sure whether you can see well, but like that border of the plants on the bottom, that's also from Layla's Instagram page. So.
Oh, yeah. And that's been throughout. A couple of pages ago, it was here on the left and on the right. And so you've got great alternation flowers, and then this gray-green, and then this gray-green box, a slightly different shade of green, which is nice, and then more flowers. Good little aesthetic things throughout the torch. Wonderful layout. Club of the month. All right. Another good place to keep records of winners of things like this. So first place for November, Club of the Month, was the Meadows School. They used the app Charity Miles in order to raise money for their charities of choice. With over 147 miles of running and biking, they were able to raise $36.75. They also held the Southern Nevada Amici Pratis, a local convention with events like academic testing, Pictionary, Kurtaman, Minecraft, Build Battle, Sight Reading, Spyfall, Vets Entertainment, and Bingo.
Yeah. And the second place winner was North Gwinnett High School, GJCL. And third place was Franklin High School, NJCL. And honorable mention was Walton High School of GJCL.
Yeah.
So congrats to the November winners.
And in December, first place was Timber Creek High School, Florida JCL, who hosted their annual Saturnalia party and wrote letters for Support Our Troops, created edible Roman mosaics out of sweets, played Among Us, and competed in an ugly sweater competition. Members of the club have been tutoring new Latin students after school, especially as prep for the National Classical Etymology exam. Terrific.
Nice. And in second place, we have Walton High School from GJCL. In third place, we had Franklin High School of NJCL. And honorable mention is Rising Tide of Mass JCL.
All right. Now, here's another one of the features that Irene has added to the torch this year. Can you tell us about this? This is terrific.
So, yeah, this is a day in a Roman kitchen. It basically is a bunch of recipes that were inspired by this classical themed cooking book that I found called Cooking Abacus Roman Recipes for Today. So essentially they took what the ancient recipes that are found in like previous publications and stuff, and they modified them so that we could make them today. So this is basically what the Romans would eat, which I found fascinating.
So which one of these was your favorite to do?
To do personally, I like the pear patina. Yeah, because the lamb was kind of hard to maneuver a bit, especially since like I'm not, the most avid of cooks, and I don't really like carrots all them. I'm not too fond of carrots, so the pear patina, it was really good. I would recommend all of these recipes, but as you can see, I've rated the roast lamb the highest. So yeah, try them out.
Yes, we may make this its own stream one of these days, a cooking stream with Irene, because these have been great recipes, and I've enjoyed reading them. Again, the layout here is just absolutely beautiful. But yeah, I hadn't heard of Floralia. I'm very glad to have heard of it. And I want to try out particularly the roast lamb with coriander. So if I do that, I will let you know how it goes.
Yeah, please do. It was really good. I would say like the flavors are not as intense as what we have today, but the mildness is still good. Yeah.
Yeah, there are reasons that everybody was trying to get spices all the time, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And how did your family like these?
My mom didn't like the pear patina all that much because the consistency really is like baby food. So she did like the carrots and the roast lamb though, and my father basically liked everything too. So
good deal, and very good photography skills on taking these pictures. Very well.
Thank you. Yeah, I just used an iPhone.
Wow.
Nothing too fancy, but
and
a ladder.
And here is your other feature article. So can you tell us about this one?
Yeah, so this is ancient Roman and Greek gardens. Again, I chose this to be my feature article because it fits in with the theme of spring and fresh starts and new beginnings. So do you just want me to read the article?
Yeah, let's read it. We can swap off at paragraphs if you like.
Oh, cool. So Cicero famously wrote to Varro, "If you have a garden in your library, everything will be complete." Gardens were an important feature of the classical world and were taken seriously in ancient Rome. The Romans were avid gardeners. Roman gardens, known in Latin as horti, ranged from peristyle or courtyard gardens to villas and palatial pleasure gardens that incorporated Egyptian and Persian horticulture practices. Roman military expeditions abroad also resulted in new plants introduced into Italy.
Thyme, mint, celery seed, basil, bay, and hyssop were some of the most commonly planted herbs. Commonly cultivated flowers included roses, narcissi, oleanders, violets, crocuses, poppies, lilies, gladioli, irises, and amaranths. Trees such as myrtle, yew, plane, and cypress were commonly planted. Ivies, acanthus, and various topiaries added a decorative touch. Pliny the Younger described elaborate topiaries of figures and animals, inscriptions, and obelisks at his Tuscan villa. The Romans collected rainwater that was used in tending to the gardens, which were largely cared for by slaves.
Ancient Roman gardens are familiar to us due to systematic excavations, especially in Pompeii and Herculaneum, and the survival of garden wall paintings of Roman villas. Most Roman gardens had a patio at the entrance, which was decorated with water features such as a water basin or fountain, and frescoes that depicted shrines to the gods or nature scenes. Larger pleasure gardens had I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I think it's Zytus?
Xystus, maybe?
Xystus terrace that overlooked the ambulation or lower level garden normally used for leisurely strolls. The gestation, which encircled the ambulation, was a shaded area where the master of the house could ride horseback.
Roman gardens also had practical uses. They were a source of vegetable produce and herbs that were used in cooking and in medicine. These gardens were used for many activities such as dining, exercise, walking, and religious rituals. I'll read the next one too. In the arid and mountainous ancient Greece, many did not have their gardens by their homes, but had pottery containing plants and herbs. While the Greeks lacked the peristyle gardens, they are known to have had groves or orchards of olive and citrus trees that offered shade in those hot Mediterranean summers. Aristotle and Plato's famous schools were held in gardens shaded by plane trees that Plato referred to in his Phaedrus. Much of our knowledge of Greek gardens came from literature and paintings because few gardens have been recovered archaeologically. And even if they had been recovered archaeologically, it's hard to know what plants necessarily were in them, right?
Mm-hmm. Because they would decompose.
Mm-hmm. I like the pictures that you've chosen here too, and the quote from Cicero is a great way to start off the article. Okay, now here's a submitted article that I liked so much that I sent an email to Hannah Dodson from Tennessee JCL telling her that I really enjoyed the article. I was glad that she submitted it, and I appreciated her prose, so I'm excited to read it with you.
So this article basically talks about Hannah's experiences as a second vice president during a pandemic in which we're not allowed to convene together. So, in a normal NJCL year, Spirit definitely breaks any social distancing mandates. Crowded stadiums, surround sound screaming, the dissonance of synchronous offbeat clapping, and a collision course of inflatable JCL mascots. This year, Spirit seems sedate. Secluded submissions of chance-turned soliloquy, glitchy tech delaying and distorting our backyard efforts, and no obvious technicolor spectacle naturally produced by grouping hordes of teens in the collective environment. At the crux of college application time, many cringeworthy videos now litter the internet of myself and other JCLers proclaiming their offbeat love for classics. That's not such a bad thing.
Spirit demands fully embracing those embarrassing moments. While most people assume second VPs are just the cheerleaders of JCL, I disagree. Spirit, to me, is about projecting passion, not just precision cheers or movements. We VPs won't yell at you for getting the words wrong or clapping off time. We yell at you for not yelling. Spirit requires intensity. Most first-time convention goers, for either nationals or state, find themselves overwhelmed at Spirit. Here, surviving that overwhelming feeling, fearing what is coming next and anticipating what is expected of you, stands as a rite of passage for attenders.
In failed Zoom recordings or whispered cheers, whispered in hopes of not being judged too harshly by friends, family, or neighbors, 2020 revealed how dependent Spirit is on assaulting the senses. We second VPs can't care about a critical audience. In order for spirit to be spirited, we must magnify our exuberance. Even when your mother mocks you from behind the camera because you're screaming on your back porch, prancing like a funky Spidey.
While most JCLers only see the cheers or the coordinated attire, I see the work that goes into crafting those props, writing those cheers, and making those shirts. As second VP, I got a month to make a single prop for each of the day's themes: Roman shield and helmet, Tennessee-shaped sign, tinfoil spiders and webs, and to take a photo of each, learn, write, and choreograph a single chant and record it, and design a state t-shirt and screenshot it. And while I may never know what it's like to be a second VP in a normal time, I do know what it's like to be one when a pandemic requires our country to socially distance, channeling my intensity into each submission. I screamed an entire routine of chants. I wrote new cheers. I made 5 different versions of props just to experiment. I designed a unique t-shirt which sadly will never be printed, and I tried to encourage, more TJCLers to do the same. Sadly, a second VP cannot truly terrify members of their JCL into submitting for spirit through Zoom. Trust me, I tried.
And while I didn't get to feel the visceral thrill of leading the stadium screams or a summer full of making the same props 20 times, the work I did this summer proves that spirit is more than just the product of screaming for 10 minutes. At the end of the day, spirit is about improvisational art. If you just stop worrying about looking like a fool, have fun, and become a conduit for creativity, spirit is one of the most rewarding competitions in JCL.
Spirit was my favorite competition when I was a JCLer. More than Kurtamen, more than academic tests, more than creative arts, graphic arts. I just loved Spirit. Really did. So this article resonated with me. And I particularly appreciated the spirit-seemed sedate, secluded submissions of chants turned soliloquy. That was some very good rhetoric there.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on.
And all of the pictures are from the 2020 spirit competitions. They're a compilation of them.
Yeah. Well, Spirit, I mean, if I can I'll just wax a little bit about Spirit. A lot of the people, at least in my JCL, they really needed that outlet. An outlet where they could yell at the top of their lungs about ridiculous nonsense and be as intense as they wanted in a real, band of fellow JCLers. Being part of a larger whole, really, really getting to exhaust yourself over the course of Spirit. You know, particularly a lot of introverted kids, I found at least, when I was an introverted kid, being encouraged to yell at the top of my lungs the absolute loudest I possibly could, that was fun. That was great. It was a great way to just purge all the stress and whatever of the day and just let it all pass out of you. And apparently there used to not be Spirit. Mr. Webb says there was no Spirit competition when I was a student. I, for one, am very glad that Spirit is part of JCL. And I'll stop waxing poetic about it, but...
Yeah. There really is nothing like it, I think. It's just stunning. And I was definitely when she says that you can be overwhelmed when you first go to convention about the intensity. Yeah, that was me. But yeah, it's really fun.
Not to say, of course, that things like Kurtamen aren't intense. They're very intense. But Spirit is explosively, outwardly intense. I like that. Okay. JCL Scrapbooking 101. We'll go through this one. We'll read this one quickly.
Cool. So, this is basically an article submitted by Riva, who is the VJCL historian. These are her tips to make an awesome JCL scrapbook. A digital scrapbook is much more convenient and easier to compile than a traditional scrapbook. You really don't need to worry about buying materials, and you have a lot more room for error. If you mess up a page, you can just hit the undo button. However, putting in the art can be a little tricky, since you have to either draw digitally or scan and upload your art. I also found that digital scrapbooks tended to limit my creativity, since I couldn't do any interactive elements or pop-ups. Still, I was able to put in links and videos, which was nice.
A traditional scrapbook definitely requires more time and materials than a digital one, but I feel that the end product is much more rewarding and impressive. You also have a lot more creative liberty and get to play around with various interactive elements.
So here are my tips. First, familiarize yourself with the scrapbook rubric you'll be scored on. For example, the 2017 NJCL scrapbook rubric. Note that you must have a table of contents, artwork, and a common theme.
2. Start early. I began the JCL scrapbook in early December, and I was adding to it until the day before the July deadline.
Wow. 3. Set deadlines by yourself. I kept myself on track by giving brief scrapbook updates at JCL meetings. These updates also ensured that the rest of the board was kept in the loop, which meant that I wouldn't have to make any drastic design or changes later on.
4. Make sure your board can easily access the photos you've taken.
5. Upload and organize and caption photos right after you take them. One of the hardest parts of the scrapbooks was remembering details, so make sure you caption photos while the event details are fresh in your mind.
6. Don't forget to have fun. This is a chance for you to be as creative as you want and show off your art and design skills.
And these next few tips have to do with planning. So 7, don't be afraid to ask for ideas and discuss your work with friends from your delegation.
8. Look for inspiration, but be careful not to plagiarize.
9. Pick a unique theme that you find interesting. There are some scrapbook themes like constellations/zodiacs and Olympian gods. When I chose this theme, I wanted to choose something that was really different, and not obviously related to the classics, which is how I settled on fairy tales. Do a theme that interests you.
10. Pay attention to copyright laws.
11. Make a list of everything you need to include, and map out the general structure of the scrapbook.
12. Don't forget to relate the scrapbook to classics somehow. My state scrapbook theme wasn't explicitly related to Greece and Rome, but I tied it into the classics by featuring a Latin phrase, motto, or quote that related to the fairy tale on the page.
13. Make a couple page sketches to get motivated.
14. Start thinking of a title for the scrapbook.
15. If you're working with others, decide how you're going to divide the work and make sure everyone's on the same page.
Same page. All right, layout tips. 16. Don't be afraid to have one photo fill a full page or take up a lot of space.
17. Think about how you want the reader's eyes to move over the page and format the text and pictures to match.
18. Balance out positive and negative space. In general, I tried to make sure that if one page was busy, then the next page had more breathing room, and vice versa. Likewise, if you have a busy background, keep the photos simple. A lot of these are very applicable to publication design, too.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. 19. On that note, try to give your photos a border or frame so that they're distinct from the background.
You do that on this page, just down here.
Yeah.
20. Be aware of what general color schemes you're going to use per page.
21. Think about how you're going to ensure readers spend time on every page rather than skimming over it.
22. Get creative with the background.
23. Make sure you have a table of contents and page numbers throughout your scrapbook.
All right, construction of traditional scrapbooks tips. Number 24, think about what materials you're going to need and plan accordingly.
25. Build the body of the scrapbook first and decide what sizes the pages are going to be before you start working on the inside.
26. Print out all the photos from a certain event as you work on that page.
27. Spend a lot of time on your cover and make it as visually striking as you can.
28. If you're artistically inclined, you can draw a bunch of fun design elements to really feature your theme throughout. If you're not artistically inclined or don't want to draw that much, you can ask some friends to draw specific things to help you out. Just make sure that you have lots of original art.
29. Try to have one artistic element and one design element per page. An artistic element is a cool drawing, while a design element could just be something unique about your page layout or design.
30. Think about what you want to incorporate that makes your scrapbook unique. For me, this meant a ton of interactive elements like flaps, accordion folds, pockets, etc.
31. Mentally prepare to cut out a lot of intricate shapes. Out of the entire process, this part was honestly the worst, but it's necessary. It's so tedious.
Tips for the construction of digital scrapbooks. Number 32, figure out how you want to upload your original art. I drew digitally on Procreate, but one of the historians I worked with on our local scrapbook drew on paper and then scanned and uploaded her art to Canva. Whatever works for you.
33, figure out what you're going to use to make pages. For our local scrapbook, we used Canva, exported it as a PDF, and then uploaded to Issue.
34, don't be afraid to look for inspiration or pose references, but make sure all your art is original.
35, take advantage of the fact that you can insert videos, GIFs, and links.
36, make sure your theme is present throughout the scrapbook.
37, like with a traditional scrapbook, make sure the cover catches the reader's attention.
Publishing tips. 38, don't try to please everyone. Just make sure you're proud of what you've made.
39, if you made a traditional scrapbook, try to make a digital copy of it so that it's accessible by all and will stay with your JCL chapter, serving as a reference for future historians.
40, before I submitted to NJCL, I had the board look over my video submission to make sure there weren't any glaringly obvious errors.
And 41, share your work with other historians.
Yes.
And yeah.
Thank you to Riva for submitting that. Good tips. We're coming up a little bit on time, actually, which I wasn't expecting. I thought we might be done, but this is a 34-page magazine, and there's a lot of text in here, so we may not finish the whole issue today, but that's okay because that leaves something for our audience to go read. And we'll go through quickly what the last elements are going to be. There's a modern myth by Savannah Brown. I don't think we have time to read through this. Let's see, what else is in this issue?
And also the art for the modern myth was again drawn by Maddie, who drew the art which was in the editor's note. And this was specially made for this particular modern myth. So thank you so much, Maddie, for submitting the beautiful artwork.
Yeah. What do we have here?
Date updates.
Yeah, California, Indiana, Georgia, Kentucky, Massachusetts, North Dakota, Texas, Virginia, Wisconsin. Thank you to everybody who submitted all those state updates.
Yes.
Okay.
This daily life in the ancient world, I think that's going to be the theme for National Classics Week. So stay tuned for more information on that. And here are the Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter pages of NJCL. So yeah, you can get updates that way.
Here's an advertisement for NJCL Convention this summer. The dates have been changed to July 24th through 29th, which lets working adults not have to take quite so many days off work. And here is some more information about the costume contest characters and people to contact. The more information will be available online soon.
Yeah, that's it. Subscribe to the Torch US.
Yep, there's a link in the video description. If you didn't receive this torch in your email, it's not your fault. I haven't sent the email yet. It's going to go out tomorrow. But if you're not subscribed to the Torch US, if you happen to know that you're not subscribed to the Torch US, you may use the link in the video description here to go give us your email address and your name, and we will be sure to email all of these directly to you. Alternately, you can subscribe or you can follow NJCL on Instagram and Facebook, and we will be making a post actually as soon as this stream is over announcing that this torch went live today. So today's March 1st. That's when the torch goes up. It's up. And Irene, thank you so much. Like I said, this is a beautiful issue of the Torch. Your second beautiful, beautiful issue of the Torch that you've put together all by yourself.
Thank you. I'm glad to do it.
You're very good at it. There's a lot there are a lot of design elements and things like that that are technical, and I don't know if those would be boring to people or if people would be interested in learning more about the ins and outs of publication design. It didn't seem fair to try and combine that whole topic with a read through of the torch, so we didn't spend too much time on it here, but we can certainly devote an entire we could do several streams on how to design a publication, because that's my jam. I would talk about that forever. And edit, of course, copy edit and all that. But yes, point is, I could have spent a lot more time talking about why what you did is so beautiful. But in lieu of that, let me just say again, this is a beautifully put together publication, and I very much appreciate your diligence and your timeliness and your attention to detail.
Thank you so much. And thank you for also copying, editing this. And yeah, just catching all the little mistakes and making this issue as perfect as it can be.
And the best part is that we sometimes tell people is now that we're on DrewMag, we can always retroactively edit. So if we notice anything, going through today, if there was an M dash where there should have been an N dash or something like that, we can always go back and edit, and no one will ever know. Yeah. Okay, with that, I think we're going to switch over to our officer reports, and I haven't heard the officers come in, so I'm not sure if they're coming today. So actually, Irene, you're welcome to stay on until they come back. I will switch us back over to this screen while I check on that, because I'm not sure where the other officers are who are supposed to be giving updates today. Am I using the wrong... Nope, it's the right link. I'm not sure where they are. It's okay.
I think they did. We were talking amongst ourselves earlier, and they had trouble accessing like the document of who was to go next.
Oh.
I'm not sure if that was fixed or not, but
that was a couple of weeks ago. I think that's fixed now. No, because I had sent out emails. I always send out email reminders to the officers who are going to come on. It's okay. I mean, if they had something happened at school or they have homework or something like that, then we'll just hear from them next week, and we're coming up on our hour anyway. Thanks very much to the audience for sticking with us as we read through the torch. We love that y'all are interested in the torch. We had a great turnout tonight, some good comments from the chat. Riona joined a little bit after we featured her submission, right? And but we're glad to have you. Of course, please consider subscribing to the torch, and we'll be back next week. We're here every Monday. Next week's topic is a surprise, so you will have you'll have to wait and see our advertisement on Instagram first. So that'll be March 8th is a surprise. March 15th is the week after that. That will be the Ides of March. The NJCL officers will be playing Among Us. And there will be audience participation. So if you want to join their game, you can have 10 people in a game of Among Us, and there are only 7 NJCL officers. So the audience will be welcome to join their game and play along. And there's a delay. So whichever officer is sharing his or her screen with me here, that'll be broadcast, there will be like a 20 or 30 second delay. So it's not like the audience who is playing will get to cheat. And then I've totally forgotten what's the week after that. Let me see. March 15th, Ides of March, Among Us stream. Oh, the week after that, on March 22nd, will be our last panel discussion for a while, from JCL to economics. So I know we just had from JCL to business. This is going to be the very academic version of that, where we have 2 people who are PhD economists who are going to talk about what they do and the field of economics as the social science of economics, rather than the application of business theory to practice, which is sort of what we talked about last time. Okay, with that, it's 9 o'clock, so I think we're going to go ahead and call this our show. Irene, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for building the torch, and thank you for reading it with me. It was a real pleasure, and we will see you in a couple of weeks, I think. Oh, today was going to be one of your you were scheduled for an officer report before we swapped things around. So this was a very long officer report by you. We can consider it that way.
Yeah.
And you did a great job. All right, we will see everybody next week. Thanks so much. Cheers.
Thank you.